Hi friends, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to watch. My name is Claire. I am going to talk today about what I wish I had known before I moved across the country. So I moved from Iowa to Portland, Oregon in 2017. But before I get into that, please take a second to... Okay, let's see if I can do this. I actually really suck at this. Please take a second to like this video. Right there. Oh my God. Okay, please take a second to like this video, leave a comment for me down below. I really gotta get those comments coming in because I never get comments on my videos. And shoot, what's the last one? Oh, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And then on top of that, please find a friend or someone in your life who you think might find this video useful or helpful and send it to them. These things are so easy. They take 2 seconds for you to do, and they are completely free ways for you to support me and my little tiny YouTube channel. I really appreciate when you do those things, and I do notice, so thank you for that. So jumping right into this, I just want to give a little bit of a background with me and my story and my journey with moving across the country. So basically, I was born and raised in a small town in Northwest Iowa. And then I graduated high school and I moved more to like the central part of the state where I went to Iowa State University. When I graduated in 2017, I moved to Portland, Oregon. And so it has been just over 3 years that I have been here. Just over 3 years, because I moved here in like July of 2017. Started out living in Portland, Oregon. And then I ended up moving to an apartment in Vancouver, Washington, which is just right over the state border. And so now I consider myself to be a resident of Washington State. That's where I work and that's where I live. So I'm very close to Portland. I love Portland. I love to go into Portland pretty regularly. There's just a lot of stuff to do there, lots of good restaurants, lots of pretty views. And then I also have really come to love my little town of Vancouver because there's also some really fun things to do here as well. And so basically, my first thing that I wish I had known before I moved across the country was that the first year to 2 years is really not going to be super fun. You're probably not going to know very many people. You're going to be in an unfamiliar area. You're likely starting a new job that you're just learning like the ins and outs of. And all of those things were true for me. I knew no one when I moved here. It was my first teaching job, my first real job out of college, which was a venture all on its own. If you are in the education system, you know how hard that first year of teaching is. I mean, any first year of a career or a job is hard, I think. But I think teaching is like a whole nother animal. I could be biased because I am a teacher, but that was a really rough year. And so being in a new, unfamiliar area, no friends, new job, it was a really rough time. And looking back on my life, I think the first year, 2.5 years that I was here was one of the toughest of my entire life. It was very high stress. I was lonely and I felt like I wasn't doing a good job at my job. And yeah, it was really hard. So I think if you are planning on moving across the country or you recently have, just know what you're in for. Obviously, there are times of life when things are going to be harder, and that shouldn't hinder you from making the move, but you do need to be mentally prepared for it. When I planned to move across the country, in my mind, it was going to be like butterflies and rainbows every day, and I was going to roll out of bed smiling and like ready to tackle the day every day. And in reality, I sort of fell into a very deep, dark place. And at the time, I didn't realize that it was because I was just in this new stage of life and I needed to get acclimated. At the time, I thought this is what the rest of my life is going to be like. This is what it's like to be an adult, which is not true. Not to mention, when you're in a new, unfamiliar area, you get lost a lot. For the first year that I was here, I pretty much had to use a GPS anytime I was going somewhere new. I still have to use my GPS a lot just because I'm new-ish to this area and I don't know where everything is. So I would beat myself up a lot because I would get lost so easily. Even if I'd been somewhere before, I would forget how to go there and I would just be so mad at myself. Like, what's wrong with you? How do you get lost in a place that you're supposed to call your home? So GPS is your friend. Give yourself some extra time to get there if it's a new place, because even if you're using a GPS, you still could get lost. That's happened to me multiple times. And I've just learned to, leave a little bit earlier than I normally would, because there's a really good chance that I'm gonna have trouble finding where I need to go. The second thing I wish I had known before I moved was that you need to force yourself to get out and do things. Explore the new area that you're living in. This was something that I didn't do for a long time because I didn't really have anyone to do it with. Like I said, didn't know a lot of people when I first moved here. And in my mind, if I didn't have anybody to do anything with, I couldn't do anything. And I quickly learned you can do stuff by yourself. You can go by yourself to do things and explore. So basically, it got to the point where I would just do the things I wanted to do. If I asked someone to join me and they couldn't come, I'd just go by myself. So that way I was able to get out and do stuff. I wasn't just like on the couch every free minute that I had. And I got to learn a lot about the new area that I'm in. It's really easy to just like sit and veg on the couch during our free time, which it is important to do that a little bit. But you don't want to be in a place where you're just like going to work, coming home, sitting on the couch. Get up the next day, go to work, come home, sit on the couch, and only do that during your free time. So I got really into hiking shortly after I moved here, and I was to a point where I was going pretty much once a week to a new destination, which is so cool. Henry. I got this little man who has changed my world around. I don't think I would have survived my first 2 years without him. So if you're able to have a pet, I guess that is helpful as well. Along with that, I think you need to really put yourself out there and find people to hang out with, even if they're not like lifelong friends, someone that you enjoy being around and enjoy spending time with. I was super lucky, and I had multiple people who just were like, okay, you're my friend now. Like, you have no other option. We're friends. So thank goodness I had that, or I like would have known no one, just because I'm so shy as it is, and it's so hard for me to put myself out there. I could do that now, and I do that now when I need to, and when I'm, feeling like I need to make connections with certain people. But when I first moved here, I was nowhere near in a place where I felt comfortable doing that. So luckily I did have those few people that, like, for lack of a better term, like forced their friendship on me. And I will forever be grateful for those people. If that's your personality, I just have to speak on behalf of my people, us shy people. We really appreciate when you do that, or at least I do. And now I learned a lesson in that when there's a new person, in town or at my job, or just who I've somehow come across or know somehow, I always reach out multiple times to let them know they can always hang out with me if they want to, just because I know how crappy it feels to feel like nobody, wants to get to know the new girl, I guess. On the socializing note, if you're maybe in a position where you're really struggling to make friends and you just need some kind of human interaction, because for me, I was living alone. I didn't know very many people. All I had was Henry, and there were just a lot of times where it was like I literally have no one in the world. And that is where the wonders of 2020 come into play, because we live in a time when you can make connections with people through your phone. There are all sorts of apps out there. So basically what I did is I downloaded dating apps, and I would go on dates with guys with the hope of like making a connection and, liking them. But lots of times it didn't work out that way. I wouldn't really feel attracted to them, or I just wouldn't really be into it. But I still would always have a really good time, because I, got to just like socialize with this person, talk to them. They always had really fun things to do, because they just knew of, restaurants and things to do in the area that I had never done before. So I found a lot of fun things to do in this area through the dating apps that I did, and the recommendations I got from the guys that I met up with. Even if I never saw them again, even if we like ended up not hitting it off romantically, it still was super fun to just like hang out with someone and get to know them and have someone to do things with, because it is fun to do things by yourself, but not all the time. So that is still one of the top things that I'm so happy I did. I'm so happy I put myself out there and got to know people that way. Even though I don't talk to any of them anymore, and most of them I never talk to again, I did end up meeting Andy that way, and so it does sort of have like a happy ending. And now I have just like this list of things to do when I have guests in town, or if I just feel like, you know, going somewhere and doing something, I could be like, oh, I can go to that place that one dude took me to that one time. I feel like people probably think that's weird that I did that, but I don't care. It was still one of the top things that like really helped me get to know my new city. And it also really helped me in my loneliest times when there was literally no one that I could talk to, no one that I could be around. My parents were 4 or 5 states away, however far away Iowa is. And it just like, yeah, really helped me in those moments. Okay, the third thing I wish I had known before I moved across the country was money's gonna be tight. Of course, that's not true for everyone, but for me, I was living alone. I did look into getting roommates, but with the dog, it just made it like a lot more stressful trying to find people. I'm also severely allergic to cats, and lots of people own cats. So that made it hard finding a roommate just because like that's a no for me. I will never live with a cat. I can't do it. And not to mention the tensions that would have been in that house between a cat and a dog. So I did seriously look for a couple years into finding a roommate, but nothing just ever ended up working out. And I did really like living alone. So money was tight because I was living alone. I was in my first year teaching. I was making a good amount of money compared to what I was used to because I'd never had a real paycheck before. But I still was paying like all of my own rent. My rent at the time was like, I think just over $1,000 a month, which is higher than anything I had ever experienced in my life. My rent in college was like half that amount. So it just happened to be like the area that I live in, or that I moved to, happened to have a lot higher cost of living. Basically, what I would do is each month when I got my paycheck for work, I'd pay my rent, pay my bills, you know, buy the groceries, all the necessities, and then at the end of that pay period, right before I got my next paycheck, whatever money was left, I would transfer over into my savings. Sometimes it was less than $100. Sometimes it was close to $500. It just depended on the month. And that was very discouraging. I could see how little my savings account was growing. I do have the goal of owning a home one day. And at that time, I was like, at this rate, I'm never going to be able to buy a house. And so there were a lot of days and nights where I would call my parents bawling, like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, I'm never going to have enough money to live. But at the time, it was just so nerve-wracking and scary to me because I felt like I just didn't have any money. And I was really scared if I went through some kind of like job loss or emergency, I wasn't going to be able to afford to live. Luckily, I have very supportive parents, and they would talk me through every mental breakdown and every panic attack that I had and called them with, which was a lot that first year. And they basically would just like talk me down and be like, you know, you're in your first year, you're young, you are right out of college, you are accomplishing so much already, and you need to stop being so hard on yourself. And I knew they were right, but it was still really hard just looking at my savings account. And also feeling like I was throwing away $1,000 a month just to live in a crappy 1-bedroom apartment. Over time, you know, eventually I had met Andy. He did move in with me like a year into our relationship because we both are very money conscious and we knew how much money we would save if we lived together. And then his roommates ended up moving back to the Midwest. So it just kind of worked out timing wise. So he finished out my lease with me in that 1-bedroom apartment. It was cramped, it was crowded, but we saved so much money. I put away a lot of money those, 5 or 6 months that we lived in that 1-bedroom. And then we moved in May to our current living situation. We're still renting, but it is a home. It's a house, a 2-bedroom house. It's again, very tiny, very small, not a lot of space, but we have at least a yard and a neighborhood, and we're not in an apartment complex, which is something I was just kind of ready to be done with. And we're still saving a good amount of money each month because we signed a lease that we knew we would be able to put a lot of money away and we knew we would be able to afford. So my parents were right. Life does just fall together. And 3 years ago, I was a nervous wreck, didn't know what I was going to do. And now here I am. I have plenty of money saved and I'm continuing to save money. So I do want to make this a little bit more personal and talk more about me and like the situation I was in when I first moved here, because that basically is the basis, that time in my life is the basis of this YouTube channel with mental health and anxiety, and all of the crap that basically I've been through and that I try to share about now. So basically from like 2015 when I was in college, I was like a junior in college, 2015 to halfway through 2018 maybe. That was by far the hardest time in my entire life. I had some of the darkest times where I like wondered if, I was going to be able to survive. There were times where I felt like my anxiety was so bad, it was literally going to kill me. I got to the point where it was like, I don't even know how I should even try to live a normal, healthy, happy life anymore, because no matter how hard I try, bad things just keep happening to me. And yeah, it was a dark, deep hole and it sucked. And I realize everyone goes through crappy times in life. But that being said, since I survived those 2.5 years, 3 years, I guess, 2015 to 2018, I know I can do anything. Like, if I survived those years all on my own, I know I can do anything. Like, plus now I have so many more people in my life who support me. I have my friends back home in Iowa, and now I have friends here too. And I have Andy, and I have amazing people at my job who I've gotten to know. And I just feel like, and I can handle any of the crap that life throws at me. I could go on about this stuff forever. I'm sure I'll make more videos in the future about, more details about the mental health journey that I went through when I first moved here, and that I'm still going through. But that kind of sums up the 3 main things I wish I'd known before I moved here. I guess I'll just leave it at that for today. So once again, thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you liked this video, please be sure to check out some of the other videos on my channel. Give it a whirl. I cannot believe this, but it's almost been 1 year since I started my YouTube channel. What a ride it's been. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment, send this to a friend, all the things. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.